Welcome to the first in a series of interviews with amazing men and women that I get to be friends with, and now that you get to hear part of their story. So, this is Mandy Ross. We met through the Grove Church, and I'm going to let her give you a little bit of background. So, Mandy, like, how long were you at the Grove Church, and kind of what were some of the things you did there?
Yeah, so I was at Grove Church for 7 years, so 7 awesome years. I came because a friend invited me, and I started out on the greeting ministry team, which was great because I got to like kind of get to know the church. And then 6 months later, I started up on the worship team there. And then in my last couple of years, I had the privilege of being the growth groups director, and so I feel like I really got to know the church as a whole and even worked with youth and high school ministry. And yeah, I feel like I just got to see all aspects of the church. And it was just like really awesome to just honestly be a part of it. It's a huge part of, I'm so thankful for that time. Still thankful. Yeah.
Girl, yes. And I have to tell you guys, Mandy is so good at just being present with all the different people. Like she was saying, she worked with youth, she worked with the growth groups, which is how we worked with the yearship,
Mhm.
like wherever Mandy was. And I still hear this to this day. Your reputation is just someone of love and light and presence. Like you are all about wherever you are, whoever you're with. And so love that. Really powerful.
Thanks.
And you're welcome. And that's one of the reasons I love being your friend.
I know. It's such a joy when we first got to meet because you were a growth group leader and you were one of the first people I think I talked to, and you were running your group, and it was just great. I just loved it. I loved seeing you get to do that. Which was just it's still going and it's still great. So yeah.
Thank you. And so, as wonderful as things were at the Grove, and
Mhm.
still are, God had something different for you. But I know it didn't. It didn't come through right away. Like it was a process. So, and I realized that to go through your whole story would be really long. So, people, this is just going to be a snapshot. Um, but let's start with what was one of the first clues or hints for you that you were not going to be at the Grove permanently? Like the Lord, that was a season, and the Lord was moving you into a new season.
Mhm. Well, I think it's really important to kind of note time here. I think that that's kind of helpful for people to see just as far as what waiting and stuff just looks like, I think, on him with him. So I mean, we are in wow, crazy January 2025. I'm in San Luis Obispo right now, technically at Tascadero. But
Which,
uh
wait, pause, because there may be people that are not from California that watch this. Give me some
yeah,
geography. Like San Diego's at the very
sure.
southern point of
Yes, we
California.
have so you have San Diego, and then think, 2.5 hours up, you've got LA County, right? And then a couple more hours up, you have Santa Barbara, and then San Luis Obispo is about an hour and a half north of Santa Barbara. And then Atascadero is like 20 minutes up, like north from San Luis Obispo. So that's kind of we kind of sit in like the pocket of halfway between San Francisco and LA. So
Mhm. Which let me pause here and tell you guys that I discovered this the hard way when I was driving up to Sacramento up the five, and I was like, "Oh, we'll just stop by and say hi to Mandy. She's right on the way, no problem." No, it is like she said, it is far over, and so I was driving and driving and driving, and this was when the cell phones conked out, so we didn't have GPS. We couldn't get a hold of Mandy, and I kept asking my drive mate. I was like, "Are you sure we're going the right direction? Are you sure we're going to see Mandy?" But
yes.
thankfully, we were. But
Yep.
you have a great little pocket over there.
Central Coast, got to come all the way over.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, so in April of 2020, that would have been 2022. Every single year our worship team does like a once a year annual retreat just to kind of like get away, to refresh, obviously have some team building and just like get ourselves set like just for the year and for leading worship. And so it was a really beautiful time. And on our last night there, we have like a ministry, just a prayer time. Well, no one was praying yet, and our worship leader had kind of asked us to just spend some time in silence. So I think just kind of like sitting and just being present to like listen to the Lord. And it was in that time where I really felt like the Lord was like, you're leaving. Like it was just a very when they say he has like a still small, like just quiet voice, that is exactly what I heard. Like I wouldn't be here anymore. And I was like, okay. And at that point, I had never really like I feel like I talk with the Lord and we have such a relationship, but I never heard him say something like this, where it was like something that wasn't to do in the moment, like go pray for this person or something. It's like, okay, I'll walk across the room and like pray for this person. This is like, oh, he didn't really give me anything more aside from that. So I didn't know what to do with it. And so I was kind of overwhelmed is not the word, but I was like kind of in shock. And I was like, okay, wait, Lord, like, what do I do with this? So I think it's always really important to find someone to open up with. So like first, obviously, like if he gives us something, you sit with it for a second. I didn't go and tell everybody, but I knew I wanted to tell one of my friends that I was really close with on the worship team. And so I ended up kind of talking with her about it. I was like, hey, I was like, this is like, and we talked about this like, gosh, this is like a few weeks later. I like went up to her house. We were gonna like songwrite together and stuff. And so I ended up speaking with her and letting her know. And I think she kind of noticed, which is why it's helpful to tell people, because when we are walking with the Lord, sometimes we need some accountability and guidance. And I think for me, she was watching me kind of tear it down, like, well, maybe I'm just moving apartments. Maybe I'm going to do a different ministry. Maybe I'm God's taking out of growth groups. Like maybe like I was trying to tear it down small, but like deep down, I knew I was like, maybe I'm just missing the worship retreat next year and I'm out of town or something. And she kind of laughed at me and like, I mean, laughed with me, like not at me.
Right, right.
She was just kind of like, hey, I think that God is about to do something a lot bigger than those things that you would like them to be. But she's like, I think the truth of what you're speaking. I think that it's not those things, that it's bigger than that. And I was like, and it resonated. And I knew she was right, but vocally, I didn't want to admit it. And I think sometimes we don't want to say it out loud because it might be something that scares us, and which it was at the time for me, because I had just finished telling people I had like become the growth groups director in August of like 2021. I loved my church community. I was getting to know more of my church community and going in deeper. And I was so excited about that. I was discipling kids. I was like, this is what I want to do. I just got a job at a coffee shop that I like really loved and was excited about. Like I just got that job and I was like, I am right where I was supposed to be. And that's what I was telling people. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. So that was a shocker to get that from him after those first months of that year being like, wow, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Wait, what? What are you doing? So yeah, so that's kind of the initial, yeah, out the gate.
And you were saying about like that you felt like you were where you're supposed to be, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're being told to move. Like, is there how you talk about asking your friend? Was there
Mm-hmm.
any other thing that you used or employed what am I trying to say? To not convince yourself that, oh, okay, well, clearly that's wrong because I don't want to move and I'm in a great spot. So I must have misheard it. So, how did
Yeah.
you protect yourself from just like completely talking out of it? Because that happens, right? If the Lord works with something
Mm-hmm.
isn't necessarily what we want to do, it's very easy to be like you were saying, you're like, well, maybe I'm just missing the worship retreat. Like,
Yes.
that's it. That's
Yes.
what I'm leaving. I'm leaving this
Yes.
job.
um, I honestly think I had after having that talk with that friend, I had to go back to him and I needed to actually start really spending, not that I wasn't spending alone time with him, but I mean spending alone time with the intentionality of, hey, what is this, Lord? Like, what does this look like? Like, what are you doing? Kind of thing. And actually like having the freedom to ask him. So I kind of went back. It's like almost like going back to the drawing board. It's like, okay, Lord, I'm coming back to you. What does this look like? And when honestly, like there was nothing, I began to just almost like you begin to like look for evidence, like you begin to search. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I knew I wasn't supposed to really share with like anyone else. So I think it's really important. I think when like the Lord does share something like that, I think if I had immediately gotten a bunch of like opinions in, like I know people would have been wholeheartedly like praying and whatnot, but I couldn't even place what it was. And I think it's because the Lord was really like, hey, this is something I'm going to walk through with you. So keep keep asking me questions. And I was like, okay, I will keep asking you questions. So I started taking trips, not started, but I used to love like just having time of like solitude with the Lord. So sometimes it'd be local, like maybe just like go up the coast to Encinitas or something like that. Other times I would take like a big one and like drive to Yosemite or something. So in like the course of 2022, I began just taking drives, but not just doing my time of solitude with the Lord, I started asking him when I would go to those places, like, are you bringing me here? Are you bringing me here? I remember I just kind of like, yeah, like wherever I went, I was like, are you bringing me here? What about this? And so I just kind of just would ask questions. And there was some times where he was just like, no. And there's
Yeah.
other times where he was silent and I didn't know, but I knew that I needed to keep asking him. And I think through the fall of like the rest of 2022, there was so much tension because I was like, I don't know what this is. I want to share, but I'm unsure and I don't know what it is. But I think the more I kept asking questions, the more I realized I was asking questions about places to live. And that's where I kind of was like, okay, Lord, I don't know yet, but I believe that I think you're going to move me. I just don't know what that looks like yet. And that kind of leads into what is actually a year ago, 2 years ago exactly today, when I did take the drive up to San Luis Obispo. So yeah,
And,
it's kind of cool to have this interview today, actually.
but
Yeah.
I didn't realize that about the anniversary. That works out very well.
Mm-hmm.
Lord's fun like that. So first off, I love that you were willing to ask him questions and that you were okay to sit with the uncertainty, which is how were you able to, because one of the things I've always appreciated about you, Mandy, is your trust and faith in the Lord, right? Um, how were you able to keep that or preserve that in the midst of, I'm not sure what exactly where I'm moving to or what I'm leaving? Like you asked these questions, but it wasn't like he just spelled out everything right away. So how do you maintain your faith and trust?
No, definitely not. Definitely not in that year. It took time for him to reveal, as he does with his timing, and his ways are so much greater than ours. But honestly, community. I think like having people around me and continuing and being like present, I think being with those people made me present, seeing like my high schoolers at high school ministry and not failing to like do the things that God had already given me in the present. I think that's what helped me to push on, because then I realized, well, okay, let me sit back and realize that I think I'm in a learning stage right now, which we're never not in a learning stage. Like hopefully we're always learning. But I think that was the part that I think kind of gave me hope and endurance in the waiting and the not knowing, was pressing into what he had already given me for what I could see right now. So I was like, I have to press in with what you've given me now. I have to still ask you in my quiet time alone, but I need to be amidst those that are walking with you so that I can learn from them. And who knows, maybe I get to like, maybe you speak through one of them. I don't know. But like, I think the community, and really it was like the community of the Grove, was really what kind of got me through that tension and that wrestling, and uncertainty. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And there are, again, many steps along the way, but we're going to fast forward a little bit through the questioning and the working. And so you're in San Luis Obispo now.
Mm-hmm.
How kind of at the end of this, how did you end up at the church that you're at? Because you're working with
Yeah.
a group of youth at a church right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, kind of cool. I think, yeah, like once I moved here, do you kind of want me to start from there? I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So,
Um,
guys, FY, there might be a part two. We'll see where we can get all the little
yes,
details.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
we're getting the
yeah.
beginning and the
Yeah.
end in this one.
Yeah. We'll just say, I think like if I were to say like quick and short about like, because people are probably like, wait, like I moved here June 1st of 2024. And so I've been here 7 months now. Um, but prior to that, I would say like there was two things that were really involved, and it was a lot of prayer, a lot of fasting, and that kind of encompassed the waiting and the timing.
Oh,
Um,
wait, I'll stop you right there then. When
oh
you
yeah.
say fasting,
Mm.
do you mean literally not eating or like fasting from your
No,
phone?
so not fasting in that way, because I know that's like biblical fasting is like actually like drawing away from like food. And so what I did is kind of did 40 days of silence. And in that, I mean, they're like, wait, did you not talk to anyone for 4 days? Like,
No,
no.
guys, that's not a
That
managing thing to
was
do.
really difficult. But no, I did 40 days of silence, meaning that I took 40 days to be intentional about listening to the Lord. So anytime I was alone, I didn't have music on, podcasts, Netflix. Just think of all like your external like things that you could listen to or watch. I just didn't do that for 40 days anytime I was by myself. Obviously, if I'm with people, I'm not like, turn off that music, you know what I mean? But it was strange for me, especially as a worship leader, because I was like, wait, Lord, I'm not even listening to worship music. And it was like, it was almost like, yeah, I'm really drawing you into the quiet. Like I really wanted to practice and see what it looked like to train my ear to him. So, yeah.
How had you read about that somewhere? Did the Lord, like, how did you even know to do 40 days of silence?
No, no. I would say like actually I will say prior to that we had done a study at the church. We called it intentional tensions. As you well know, you led during that time as well. We walked through a lot of spiritual disciplines, and one of them was silence and solitude. And so that was actually the section that I ended up writing on the devotionals. And so I think I had already kind of practiced, like a 24-hour this or that, or like certain things like that, because I wanted to learn how to actually even write a devotional that would be those spiritual disciplines. So I had already kind of done that, but not in that long of a sense, like more like, okay, I did it for a day, or I did this for like a week, or I took this out or something. But so no, but I do think because it did come after that time, that is something that actually kind of pulled me toward that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do your 40 days of silence, you're intentional, you're leaning into the Lord.
Yep. 40 days of silence. And then when that ended, he just asked me to wait. I didn't look up jobs. I didn't look up places to live. I just waited. And he was very intentional about letting me know that um, I needed to be present for what he had given me then. And at that time, we were creating the journal for like First and Second Samuel that our church does the whole like whole church walkthrough of a devotional. And so I did that, and I just waited. I waited for him to resurface it, and then lo and behold, after a growth group brunch, the pastor that was pastoring over me prayed for me, and ended up just kind of having a vision or word, if you will. And he was just like, just I just feel like yesterday, like the Lord brought it to my attention that you'd be leaving and taking another job. And I know that was totally the Holy Spirit talking and not him. And it was then after, that's like, let's see. Yeah, that was about like 4 to 5 months after I ended the 40 days. And then I was like, okay, Lord, it resurfaced. And then I ran over to my friend's baby shower, and her two best friends that live up there were at the baby shower. And she's like, hey, I know you're praying about this. Like they live there, had no idea. And that's kind of how I got to the church that I'm at now. I got to come here because of one of those ladies that I like reconnected with at the baby shower.
And the baby shower was right after you had this discussion with
Right
your
after,
pastor,
like the
right?
baby shower was right after the growth groups and the prayer. And then I was like, I gotta run to this baby shower. Like, so that was kind of like, I don't know, his timing was really beautiful, I think, in that. And so yeah, so hence yeah, I actually got to like physically visit this church and this area through that friend of a friend, which was really a beautiful thing. So but yeah, so now I am heading up like a homeschool co-op program for this church up here that I so dearly love. It's been great. And also just, it's funny. I think that is just how the Lord works too, because I was super nervous to take this job, mostly because I'm just like, oh my goodness, like this is a ground up program, Lord. I've never done something like this. I love working with high schoolers, but gosh, how's this going to go? And truth be told, I didn't even know where I wanted to go to church up here. I knew I'd been watching this one online for a while, because one of my friends who actually like used to attend the Grove as well, like it was his church. And so like I knew about it because of him, and then knew about it because of my friend's friend as well. So it's kind of like cool. I'm like, wow, there's like all these ties.
And that
Uh,
that church that you watched online was way before this all started, right? Before you were talking about leaving and all that. Hadn't this church been something you had already been watching?
Not before he told me to leave.
Okay.
So it was later, I would say like, gosh, what, 4 months later or so. I had found out about that church later. So yeah, so it was after the initial leaving, but not before I knew I was moving there. So I was watching it for a long time before even thinking that was not even on my mind.
Okay. Lord's
um,
like planting seeds.
yeah. But yeah, so now I am here growing in this church family and getting the opportunity to pour into kids, discipling to them like Monday through Thursday in the morning, and then they get to kind of do their homeschool work. And there's still so many aspects and things to grow and learn, but I have never realized more that all the things that the Lord has walked me through in the different jobs I have held, and especially what he had given me in my time at the Grove, is really coming into play, and I'm seeing the fruit of it here. So,
And that is something that we may discuss in a part two. And if you listeners and watchers have any questions for Mandy about the in between, let me know. And we'll see if we can get her again. Because again, her smile just lights up a room. And Mandy, one of the things I love about your story, and I hope that people take is because not everyone is gonna have the Lord come to them and have them move their whole life. Actually, that happened to me. I went from Ohio to California, but that's a different story for another day.
yes,
But that doesn't happen all the time, right?
right.
But we all go through seasons, and we all have things that the Lord puts on our plate or takes from our plate.
Mhm.
And so I love how you talked about the waiting and the trusting and being intentional on going to the Lord, and that's something that I believe anybody can apply wherever
Mhm.
they are.
Mhm.
So I'd love to have and this time together with you just praying over people that are in a state of nervousness. We'll put it that way. They're
Mhm.
nervous about what's coming or they're nervous about what the Lord's saying. But if someone's like, they're uncertain and they're nervous and they're anxious, like I would love you just to pray a calming prayer over that and in that time of waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. All right, let's pray. Um, Well, Father, I just thank you so much just for this time, Father. I thank you for the ways that you continue to grow us, that you continue to speak to us. And God, so I just want to lift up those that are watching, Father, whatever season they're in right now, God, I just ask that you would protect and watch over them, God, that they would come into the quiet and not be afraid to go into the quiet place with you and to be in a space where they can just really hear you, Father. And even if they don't feel like they hear or know your voice, God, would you pour out your peace over them, God? We know that your peace is all surpassing, God. And God, would you speak to them through your word, Father? I ask that you would bring people into their lives that would help confirm the things that you have begun to speak into them, God, that they would move forward in courage, like it talks about in Joshua, who was so nervous to become a leader after Moses, God, to the Israelites. But Father, you say to come with courage, God, you say to come without fear because you have already overcome that. And so I just ask that any fears would just go in your name. I ask that all anxiousness would just pass, Father, and that those that are watching this and those that are maybe just thinking about the things that are upcoming in their life, or maybe even things that they don't know about yet. God, I ask that you would protect and watch over them, that you would surround them with your love and your comfort and your peace. And above all, God, your joy, that they can be present with you, to know that you are walking with them and that you don't leave them in any step, and that you reveal things in your timing, and your timing is good. Thank you so much for being faithful, Lord. And I ask that they would continue to see that, and that we would all grow in seeing your faithfulness and acknowledging it in our lives. Amen.
Mm-hmm. And let's all, you and me and whoever is watching, take a deep breath in and then just blow it out. One more deep breath in. Breathe in all those things. Can you pray for us and blow it out? Well, Mandy, my friend, thank you so, so much for taking this time to talk with us and share with us and be vulnerable with us. If you want to learn more or see about her, you're going to see some videos pop up with her singing and her and I doing affirmations. And then in the notes, we'll have the story from Joshua that she referenced and her church. So God bless you all, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
I hope you've gotten just a little taste of what the Lord has